Yeah, so this is my Joseph icon. I have no idea who the artist is. And if the artist is out there, please tell me because I stole this picture off the internet and then printed it on canvas, and I would rather pay the artist, you know. But I couldn't track
That is
down who the
so
artist
sick.
was, and I couldn't even find where like they are selling the print. So I'm like, oh, yeah, I can zoom in too. It's kind of fun. Yeah,
Bro, that is
my
so
family,
cold.
of course, is like my family from Mexico used to be Catholic, so I'm like, yeah, we're one day we'll be the new Catholics, and it'll all be good.
Bro, that is so cold. I need a copy of that so bad.
Dude, well, thanks for coming on, man. Let's just jump right into it.
Of course.
Tell us about yourself. Just introduce yourself, and then tell us about your channel because I think you guys are big. I mean, we're still kind of like getting off the runway, but you guys are rolling. So tell us about that.
Yeah, bro. So my name's Cade Alvey. I am a BYU philosophy student, and me and my friend Baylor and
Wait, so have
our
we taken classes before? I swear we've taken some. Did you take a class with Joseph Spencer or anything like that?
no, so actually I just finished up my second semester at BYU, so I haven't been
Okay.
there for very long. I was at UVU for a long time and almost done, but then I don't know, dude. The call of the wild told me to come over to BYU, so set me back a little bit, but it'll be fine. And so I'd be shocked if we had any classes together.
Okay, okay,
But
yeah. 'Cause I did a philosophy minor, and which is basically the major, just like minus two classes. So,
yeah,
anyway, you look familiar. I'm pretty sure I've been into a U on campus.
yeah, I'm sure it's been somewhere, but I mean the so all those in favor is my YouTube channel. I started it with my buddy Baylor and our friend Noah joined on right after we kind of got it up and running. And it's a good thing too because when we started out, we were literally just filming on an iPhone in Baylor's basement. And Noah's
Nice.
a wizard at editing and production, so he came in and like rescued us. And we kind of took off pretty quick by pissing off a lot of evangelicals, and they kind of activated us. So like we posted 2 videos on Instagram. I actually didn't even know that my buddy had posted them. My wife
Oh
was
wow.
getting ready in the morning and she called me in to the bathroom. She's like, what's this? And she showed me this video of me and Baylor talking that we had recorded 6 months ago that I didn't think we were going to do anything with. And she was like, you're like, this has 100,000 views. And I was like, goodness
That's awesome.
gracious, what? It didn't have 100,000 views at that time, but and then
What
it
what
kind of
what
took
what
off.
was what were they mad about? Like what were they upset about?
Oh, well, we were reacting to this this nonprofit group. Have you heard like gotquestions.org?
Yes.
They made this video, and I swear it's all like AI generated. And I checked a lot of their sources and stuff. Like a lot of them didn't exist, and it had like hundreds of thousands of views. They made this video about what Mormons believe or whatever, and so we thought that would be like a good way to introduce the channel. And um, we were they were saying that we don't believe Christ is God. And Baylor, he said maybe they should just take a look at the first page of the Book of Mormon and see what it says, that Jesus Christ is the eternal God. And maybe it actually says that's the purpose of the book, and it pissed a lot of
Yeah,
people
for
off.
real. Dude, that's awesome. Do you see? I love that. Like that low hanging fruit, man. Like so especially with apologetics, and or kind of like this like online for sure. There's this discourse, going back and forth between Mormons and other groups. Oh, in my opinion, and this is more about not the evangelicals as the people worshiping Jesus, but like their apologetic people are probably like on the lowest tier. Like it's like
Yeah.
super, super easy to dunk on them. And they don't seem to read our stuff anyway. So,
Oh, dude,
um,
no one reads our stuff. And I also made another video that blew up for the wrong reasons because everyone's pissed about it. Where Bryce Crawford, he's like this evangelical podcaster. He's kind of like following the Cliff Nettle, Stuart Nettle path. Someone asked him about Mormons on campus, on Auburn's campus,
okay.
and he starts talking about how God revealed the golden tablets to Joseph Smith, and it was the final revelation or something like that. And
Uh-huh.
I stopped the video and I was like, where do we get tablets? Like when I hear tablets, I think, oh, that guy probably has never read a single thing that we've ever put out because we don't use the word tablets. No one uses the word tablets.
Yeah.
That just shows me that he's like watching Instagram reels to get his information about us. So everyone was like, "Oh yeah, you're just focusing on the word." I'm like, "No, dude, no. Like if I was going around saying that Jesus was crucified on a big X or something, big X the plug,
Right.
everyone would be like, "Oh, you haven't read anything." Or if I was saying that Jesus Christ was like buried in a grave instead of a tomb, people would be like, "Oh, this dude does not know what he's talking about."
Yeah, no, yeah, it is interesting. I mean, people have their own sort of vocab, especially when we talk about like, well, okay, like when evangelicals give sermons, for example, they talk about Jesus in a certain way. That's sort of like their style. And then if like a Catholic shows up, it like they can follow along, but it's still a little different. But when it comes, and Mormons have a way of talking about church and Jesus and God that has its own style. And I mean, BYU professors, I mean, they publish in like journals of religious studies and other journals where other Christians publish stuff, and so we have to be fluent in both,
Yeah.
where we have to like speak about God and Christianity in terms that those people understand, but we, the same is not reciprocated for us. Like if people want to save Mormons, they for sure have to speak Mormon lingo. They have to speak our language, and
Oh
no
yeah.
one is willing to do that. So
Yeah.
it's too bad for them because then they're just so easy to dunk on. Like
I know.
um, e- even if you say, "Oh my gosh, Mormons are so ridiculous. They believe that God gave them tablets." It's like, yeah, just like they gave Moses tablets, and
Yeah. Yeah.
so I don't see the issue here. So you guys got started. So it's called All Those in Favor. You guys blew up. How long ago was that?
We started it in January.
Oh wow, that's pretty recent. So yeah, you
Yeah.
guys are fresh on the scene.
Yeah, mid-January, and it's been a blast, dude. We've met so many cool people. We've had so much fun. It's just been awesome.
That's so cool, man. That's awesome. I'm so glad to hear that. Especially, I feel like the apologetics crowd is it's kind of older people. Like I'm already like I'm feeling pretty old myself, even though I just graduated from BYU. And then, you know, Daniel Peterson he's an older gentleman now. He's like the godfather of the scene.
Yeah.
Um, and then the professors, of course, they're seasoned professors, so they're not like in their 20s anymore. But to see young people like kind of like come to the forefront of this, super cool.
Yeah, dude.
It's really fantastic.
We need a new generation to step up because like it seems like a lot of the work we've been doing, and I say we as a church, like a
Hmm.
lot of the stuff we've been putting out just isn't reaching the younger generation. And I was a victim of that. Like in high school, like I would have these questions, I would have these things brought up to me, and they were a little bit concerning at times. And then like on my mission, I discovered FAIR.
Oh,
And I
nice.
was like, "You're telling me some 60-year-old answered my question 15 years ago and no one told me about it and no one knew about it? Like, this is amazing stuff. We got to get this stuff like out there to people like me."
I'm
And so, I mean, that's
curious.
part of the reason we're doing what we're doing.
When you were a kid, and kind of like struggling through these things, did you like what resources did you have available to you, or did you talk to anyone about them?
Bro, there's so many resources out there, but I didn't know where to go. Like, I was just in high school. So I just like search it up on Gospel Library or something. And like, it's good enough. Like, there's good enough stuff. The gospel topic essays. I mean, people have their own opinions on those, but like, those were really helpful for me. Those were really great for me. And so, I mean, I, I was very limited just because I didn't know I didn't know where to go, bro. It's like,
Yeah, yeah. Well, so my lab we're interviewing like at least 100 LDS youth in different states. And we asked them like, if you have struggles in faith, what would you do about them? And most kids actually they'll just say, I didn't ask anyone about it. I just like kept it to myself. And we would ask them, well, why did you keep it to yourself? And they wouldn't say anything like I was shamed or my parents discouraged it. They just like had no initiative. They're like, I just I just never brought it up, never really talked about it. And then it's not until they're adults and they're probably like in college when they're like actually talking to people about it, and they're like, oh yeah, I don't have any good answers for my questions. But one of the most interesting things too that we were kind of finding is a lot of kids. I don't know. See, this always surprises us. Like we've done two studies now where we ask people about why they leave religion, but no one mentions social media like enough. Like it comes up once in like a sample of like 300 or in a sample of 50,000. and it's like, what social media is it coming up for you? So I don't know if your experience like with these questions as a youth, like did social media play a role in like your faith development as a youth?
Oh, so I mean, I feel like in high school, pre-mission, probably not, because that was
Mm,
before the days of like very highly personalized algorithms. So like I
mm,
only got stuff that I was following, and I did not care about religion or academics in the slightest. Like I was just hanging out, having a good time. Didn't really matter to me unless I like had some weird question that kind of struck me. So I mean, like the I think a lot of the social media stuff came later. So I started my mission in West Texas, and then I have an
mm,
autoimmune disease. So when COVID happened, I got sent
mm.
home, and I was home for a little over a year. And during that year, when like TikTok and Instagram Reels had like taken off, that was where I started to see like anti-Mormon content for the first time.
Mm.
And like we had no one, like there was no one making pro-church content at the time, like almost no one. No one, like we were years behind the people making content
Oh
against the
wow.
church. And I mean, like, there's a few OGs, like Elder TikTok, bro, was like out there repping back in the early days of TikTok, which was awesome. But it's, I think that it is a big. I mean, like, I'm just like totally throwing a wild step out in the dark, and you probably know more about this than me because that's what your lab does. But the, I think almost everyone would have something to do with social media if it were today. But no one wants to say that. No one wants to say they like
Mm.
learned about it on social media. But when they say like what caused you to do it, they're going to point to the issue that they probably
Yeah,
heard
yeah,
about on social media. And even if they
I
researched it
agree.
elsewhere, it's probably they probably heard about it on social media somewhere.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think so. For example, no one said like the internet caused me to leave, right? Because the internet is so ubiquitous, like it's just everywhere, built into everything. It's everywhere, nowhere at once, and it like can fit in your heart, and it's also
Oh yeah,
um it spans the world.
yeah,
Um, um, but so no one's saying the internet because it's ubiquitous. And then social media. I think everyone has Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, and so maybe I think you're right. Like I, people are echoing the issues that they hear on social media, like sort of this distrust for institutions and oppressive structures and things like that. And that way of thinking is super predominant. Um, and people will say like they'll pick out reasons within that ideology to describe why they left, but they don't point to it as a whole, and they don't point to social media as sort of the place where they hear those ideas in the first place. So
yeah,
I think you're
yeah,
right, and so I think social media is still an important. It's an important place, but like it's an important context for why people stay or leave in the church. And even the church itself is like has done has put in great effort to like leverage social media to minister to people.
yeah,
So social media for sure is an amazing tool. President Nelson has said good things about social media, and so has people like Elder Bednar and Elder Cook. But
yeah, dude. Those the apostles are freaking machines, dude. They're out there posting crap twice a day. They're animals, and this goes back to I think the context by which you learn about something
mhm,
first really matters. So like I remember I was in middle school probably before I'd ever taken a biology class or anything like that. And me and my dad were cleaning out our storage room in the basement, and we kind of sat on these Home Depot buckets after we were done. And we started. I don't even remember how it came up, but he started talking about evolution, and he was talking about how he believed in evolution and how he believed that God creates things through evolution, and how he thinks that it's one of the reasons we have to believe in God that such an amazing
mhm,
mechanism can exist. And then in high school, sophomore year, freshman year, I can't remember which one, we're taking biology, and like a ton of my friends are like, they're kind of tripping when the whole evolution thing comes up, and it's like an extremely supported theory. And they're like, yeah, what does that mean with Genesis? What does that mean with with what we believe about the creation? And like I was like, I saw firsthand what encountering something in a safe environment can do for you. So
yeah,
Baylor and I, we really try and like we don't we talk about the hard things, and we try and do it in a way that isn't going to set people off. Like it doesn't bother us anymore, so we can sit around, we can joke about it. We don't have to just get a pit in our gut every time the Book of Abraham comes up, or every time the problem of evil comes up. I mean,
Mm.
we can joke about it. We can just enjoy it like it is any other strange topic. We don't know much, and we're gonna try and figure it out. But we're all kind of lost here, so might as well just have some fun with it.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, what you're telling me kind of reminds me of kind of like my upbringing too. Like my dad went to BYU. He was in like kind of an intellectual kind of guy, and we would talk. We'd have like like family discussions at midnight, 1 in the morning about deep doctrine stuff, just like trying to speculate stuff. And it was really fun. And we were allowed to say like wild things about our opinions about what the church doctrine meant. It was kind of fun. But then but so then when we heard about like weird issues out in the wild, we're like, oh yeah, like I talk about this with my dad on
Yeah.
Sunday night, like no big deal. Um, and
You should do a psychological study on the seer stones. You should survey people,
dude,
figure out where they heard about it first and what their reaction was, and I guarantee you'd find a strong correlation. If they heard it in Sunday school or from their parents or something, they'd be so chill with it. But if they didn't, then they'd be tripping. I guarantee that would be the
yeah, I
result.
think I think you're probably right. So I did write some papers about seer stones that we're trying to like refine to publish. And there's some really cool stuff psychologically actually going on there. So like for example, um, I won't like reveal my hand totally until the paper's done, but this is an idea I was thinking about for a long time. So people talk about like, well, how are prayers answered, right? How do you like how are prayers answered? How are they answered? Does God answer our prayers? And there's sort of like two ways to think about it. It's like, well, if God answers our prayers, then maybe the relationship between us and God is like transactional. And so like people sort of approach God like maybe if I pray hard enough, or if I believe enough, or if I do X, Y, and Z, God will give me the thing that I desire. And a lot of people, philosophers, and the general authorities have cautioned against that. They're like, no, no, no. Your relationship with God is not transactional. It's not. You're not like. It's not a vending machine.
What?
God
I
won't.
thought it was a cosmic vending machine, bro.
Exactly.
That's what everyone
Um,
says.
right. So we have to ditch that way of thinking. It's like, okay, so if we ditch that way of thinking, what's the alternative? And then people like Kierkegaard are like, oh yeah, maybe the purpose of praying to God isn't to get what you want. Maybe it's to change the person who's praying. And maybe it's about personal transformation. So it's like, oh, that's interesting. And that's kind of what I think it was Elder Christopherson, he gave a talk recently about prayer and viewing God as transactional. But maybe it's about personal transformation. And as you pray, like you're not just saying a bunch of words. Hopefully, you're also like paying attention to what your thoughts and how you feel and the sincerity of your heart. And if you do that, like that enough, it becomes like it's for sure spiritual practice, right? Prayer is a spiritual practice.
Yeah.
Similar to like meditation or even yoga. Um, but people who, I mean, I think about the people who I know in my life who are like, I think about my grandma from Mexico. Like my grandma from Mexico, she's like 80. She's like the most faithful woman. She used to be Catholic. And I remember growing up and like, I was a terrible kid. I would never knock when I would enter doors. So I would always like walk into rooms, and I would see my grandma like praying on the floor, kneeling over her bed, praying, and you could see just like this like face of like intense devotion. And that always like struck me, like I could tell my grandma just like loved us and loved God and would just pray. But even seeing her pray, that was moving to me. And so I can't imagine what she was feeling. 'Cause I feel like I just got a taste of what she was feeling. But
Yeah.
for her, it was like this deeply um, intense connection with God. And so I think what was more important for her was not so much like was God gonna resolve all her financial issues, or was God gonna resolve all her family issues or her health issues? Really, it was more about, hey, I'm here with you, God, and we're here together, and that's what's important. And so that was moving for her, and it was moving for me. And I'm like, yeah, that's cool. Like prayer is a transformational kind of thing. So what happens is when Joseph Smith is translating the Book of Mormon, he's using seer stones. He has the gold plates, and the whole debate right now is framed in terms of like materialism kind of the materialistic worldview where they're saying, well, how is it possible that the stones caused him to translate the golden plates? And I'm like, yeah, I think you're misframing that whole argument. I don't think you're approaching it the right way. You need to approach it more from a spiritual, I would even say a psychological point of view. So what happens is there's a famous story where Joseph Smith is translating Emma, or I think it was not Martin Harris, but Oliver Cowdery is one of the scribes. He has a scribe, right? He's trying to translate, and he's like, I can't translate right now. And they're like, why not? He's like, well, Emma and I we're fighting. Like, I can't translate. And anyone who's married, and when your wife is mad at you, I don't know how you can get any work done. Like, let's just be honest. Um, and so you got to go make up with your boo before you continue, right? So then he goes to Emma. He says, "Hey, like, he kind of makes up with her, and then he goes out to pray." And he was Martin Harris. I have my details, so it's in my paper. But he says, "Yeah, Joseph Smith was gone for an hour praying. He was praying for an hour." And so you gotta imagine, like, what state of mind are you in after you're done praying for an hour? Like, you gotta be in a different state of mind. Then, especially the contrast between, like, everyone knows this. Like, there are times where you are angry with your wife and you do stupid crap. Like, you say stupid things. You like buy fast food.
Yeah.
Whatever it is, right? You're like, oh, this, why, blah blah blah, right? But then going from that to like forgiving your wife, making up with them, praying to God for an hour, that changes your state. And then you come back and it's like, okay, now you're ready to translate the Book of Mormon. And so there's certainly like a psychological thing going on, not just with how people, like, where they've heard it, how familiar are they with the information, the cognitive reaction to new information,
Yeah.
but also like if you're treating, I mean, you can treat religion in a cool, objective way, like the scientist. That's fine. You'll learn cool things, but you're also missing the spiritual power that has to offer. That is not captured. And to be honest, science is not even interested in the spiritual aspect because it's subjective. It's sort of like
Yeah.
emotional. They're more concerned with the objective, material, um, like aspect of religion. And so you have two different ways of looking at religion and approaching religion and studying religion. And as a practitioner, you participate in religion, and then you can learn things as you participate in it. Whereas science does not, like it. That's not how it works. It doesn't work by participating in it. It works by like externally observing it. So
Yeah.
um,
And
so
that's
that's
part of
different.
what I research. That's a part of like my interest in philosophy is this like interesting shift where religious people sort of concede the verificationist ground to the skeptics, and in almost everything, like there's no verificationist route to go. Like we don't act like that day to day, and there's like if you dig into the philosophy of mind, there's all sorts of things that we know that are
Sure.
extremely unverifiable, and so it's always been interesting to me when and like you ask a religious person like why they believe, and I feel like there's a little bit of self-deception or even just outright deception going on, that they'll give you some kind of verificationist reason for believing, and like those are fine, but I mean for me they're supplemental, they're not foundational. But everyone seems to act as if they are foundational, and everyone seems to concede this like verificationist ground to the skeptics rather than just like defending the obvious, what I think is obvious truth, that you're justified in believing what appears to you to be true in the absence of some great defeater. So, like for us,
Yeah.
like for me anyway, the verifiable things and and that whole debate about like Book of Mormon historicity or the Seer stones or whatever the topic is, like all that is doing is basically ruling out, is this a defeater? Can this be a defeater? And what would it mean if it is? So, I mean, we sort of just get. I think us as members of the church kind of give up too much when we're talking about something. Like we will,
Mm.
will kind of concede these implicit premises in arguments from critics, where they'll take like the seer stones, just because that's what we're talking about. They'll take the seer stones. They'll say like, okay, the church lied about this, um, and then they'll kind of just like invite you to infer that because the church lied, and like we can sit and debate that premise all day long, but
Yeah.
it doesn't lead to the conclusion that the Book of Mormon isn't true, or that your religious experiences weren't genuine, or
Right.
that the church couldn't possibly lie about the seer stone and still potentially be authorized in some way. Like that could just be a great mistake that they made, but they still have authorization. So there's, I mean,
Yeah, there's a lot of implications even to like some of the film. Like that's the thing is, if you accept any anti-Mormon premise, like, it, oh, so here's the mistake again, psychologically speaking. It's like one of the presumptions that people make is that you're going to derive the same set of conclusions from the same set of facts, and that's just not true. You can derive a lot of different conclusions from the same set of facts. And I think where, especially when it comes to anti-Mormon versus Mormonism discussions, here's what happens. A person will say, hey, I learned this XYZ about the church, and now that's changed my perspective on the church. And now for me, the church looks very different than what I thought it looked like before. And I don't think it's true or harmonious with how I looked at it before. And we say, okay, uh, great. Thank you for sharing your journey. But then when a religious person says, hey, I'm a believer, I learned X, Y, and Z, it actually changed how I view the church. And I don't view the church the same way that I used to, but I view it differently, but I still believe it's true. The ex-Marines will say, oh, that's, you're changing definitions, changing, you're shifting the goalpost. It's not fair for you to reconceptualize your vision of the church. It's like, bro, you just did the same thing. You cannot allow us to not do the same thing. We just don't have different conclusions about what we've experienced. Um, and so,
yeah, we reconstruct and they deconstruct. But
well, yeah, well, I
there's
mean,
some kind
yeah,
of construction going on.
yeah, no, exactly. Like both groups are deconstructing kind of like prior claims and reformulating them, but the anti-Mormons are saying it's not fair for you to do that, but it's cool when we do that. And so it's like that's disingenuous, and it's bad argumentation. And it's also like bad faith, a bad faith approach to this whole discussion. Um, so yeah, I kind of forgot what we were talking about earlier.
I don't know, dude. We went right into it, bro. We went
Yeah,
all
yeah.
the way deep right away. But so I'll add on to that though. I just had an interview that's going to air, hopefully within the next couple weeks, as soon as we can get it edited. With his name's Dr. Lorne Dawson. He's a professor of new religious movements and radicalization. So cult studies, if you are an
Cool.
unintelligent
Oh wait.
person, that's probably what you'd call it. And it was an excellent interview, but he was very, very adamant that the word brainwashing not be used as an explanation for these types of things. He was like that, like
Oh yeah.
almost certainly
I
doesn't
mean,
exist.
yeah, and it doesn't. Yeah, brainwashing. No, first of all, no one knows what brainwashing is. No one
No,
knows how it's done, and brainwashing refers to so many different things. It's basically meaningless. That reminds me of one other thing. We'll come back to the cult thing in a minute.
yeah,
I
no
was
worries.
reading
We
a
don't even
lot
need
of
to.
I was reading a lot of Catholic anthropology lately, and what they're talking about was the Catholic Church is really cool, and that it's a huge global faith. They have a lot of converts, and a lot of these converts come from all sorts of diverse parts of the world. And so when people convert to Catholicism, they don't necessarily like leave behind their old beliefs. And you can see this in like colonialism and like colonial history, right? Like a lot of the Catholic traditions in Latin America are Catholic traditions mixed with indigenous traditions, and so they kind of like integrate their beliefs. And that's still happening today across the world in Catholicism. But what happens is when Protestantism came up, you know, um, they made themselves distinct from Catholicism, and then they started to say, "Hey, we have distinct like propositional beliefs in the Catholics, and so we're holding on to those, and that's what makes us different than the Catholics." And so then what happened was like the way that religious people talk about religion is they talk about it in terms of well, what is it that I explicitly believe, and how is that different than what others believe? And so it sets up a framework where you're trying to like find out what's unique about what your religion. But Catholicism is sort of like the opposite. They're like, we don't care what you actually believe. We kind of care more that you accept Jesus and that like you integrate your culture into Catholicism, and we're kind of cool with the messy boundaries. Um, and then from there, so you have Catholicism. From there, you have Protestantism, and then the offshoot of Protestantism is Mormonism, and Mormonism sort of like inherits like the this Protestant culture. So, for example, in the 80s, 70s, and 80s, you hear Elder McConkie speak, and you hear a lot of general authorities speak, and they sound like the evangelicals today, but talking about Mormonism. And we still think, kind of like what you were saying earlier, we kind of still think in these like Protestant ways, these old ways of thinking. And now we need new people, young people, people in college, people who are intellectually curious to kind of like shake things up and kind of like um make what we're talking about fresh again. So,
Yeah,
anyways,
and I mean,
coming
I'm
back.
big on that because, like what you said, like we totally have been. I mean, we started off great, but I feel like there's um, just over time living in such a Protestant country, it's going to kind of like it's going to seep in. And Baylor and I, we work hard to not let that happen. So like people will say, "You guys are polytheists," and I'll say, "Yeah, dude, bring it on. What's the problem? Three gods. There might even be more someday. What of it? What are you
Yeah,
gonna do about it?"
yeah, for real. And then again, like super low hanging fruit. It's like, well, the Israelites did not have the Trinity. They didn't have monotheism is like late development in Israelite history. So
But
yeah, it's
Isaiah
a
43:10, dude, come on.
uh, um. So very cool what you guys are doing with all those in favor. What's been for you guys? What's actually been like the most challenging part?
Oh man, bro, it's that's a great question. I think the most challenging part has honestly been like just not letting it control my life. Like we have this Instagram account and like when we're starting in the first few weeks, like it's just like a new comment every second. Cause I mean, that's how reels work. Like your reels can blow up. You don't have any followers, but like you just have a ton of people that are lighting your phone up. And it's kind of hard to just not have your brain messed up because of that. So like those first few weeks, I mean, there was a couple nights where I didn't sleep. I just think I was like dopamine fried or something. And I think all young people in the church are experiencing that to a degree where they're sort of bombarded with these like sensational messages that are probably against the church. You open up any comment section about the church and it's almost majority negative. And that's what I was dealing with. And that's been kind of honestly a difficult thing for me to just like put it away, to just say like that's not real. It's literally fake. Like all that's going
I mean,
on there, it's not real.
yeah. I mean, it could literally be bots too. That's the other
Yeah.
thing.
But I mean, like human bots is probably what it is because they all say the
Oh
same
yeah,
thing,
just
and
zombies. Yeah.
and none of them can spell a word. They say more man. They don't even know how to spell it. But and that's an ongoing battle. I'm still trying to figure out how
So
to
is
cope
it
with it.
hard in terms of is it hard in terms of just like how distracted you are, or is it hard in terms of like do you think these people are affecting your faith?
Yeah, dude, it's definitely both. It's a more distracting when people are slandering a religious tradition that you hold extremely dear and that you hold true. So when I see these comments, like even though it's like not even real, I like feel this need to stand up for this tradition that I love so much, but it's just not feasible. Like we don't have the time, and so like so I'm still just like kind of navigating how to not let it bother me, and like I might be overplaying it a little bit, like just going throughout my work day and stuff. I don't think about it. But when I have free time and I open my Instagram, that's when I'm like, oh my gosh, this is too much to deal with. And it's only on certain posts, you know, like there'll be some posts where we get a ton of positive feedback and members really stand up and share their faith and share the light we have. But I mean, it's just hard. It's hard to deal with that much
Yeah.
negative information.
Yeah, I think one of the early hopes of the church when social media started to come out is I think it, one of the things that influencers do is they kind of make it look easy, right? Like, oh, I can create a bunch of content, get a bunch of likes, and get a bunch of followers. But then you kind of go behind the scenes of like a really successful channel, and they, you know, these people are planning their content. They're like little entrepreneurs, you know.
Yeah.
That's how much time it takes to really kind of get like a mass following. And so it's actually hard to like deal like if you want it to be a successful kind of like influencer in that space. Like take for example Thoughtful Faith, Jacob Hansen.
Yeah.
I mean, we've known this guy for 10 years, and it's only been in the past 2 years where he's really gotten like a lot of limelight. So there's 8 years of like grunt work all behind that, and a lot of,
Yeah.
I would say, a lot of failure
Yeah.
in those
For
eight
sure.
years. So I think anyone going trying to make a splash on social media, like you guys, I mean, you guys are talented too. So blowing up really quickly is awesome. But I don't think that's the case for everyone. And I think being patient and just like not taking it too seriously is like a good, probably good for your mental health, you know.
Yeah, dude. I mean,
Censoring
that's everything. Not
spirituality.
taking it seriously. You put it perfect. That's the big, that's the big thing.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, and going back to like my little icon, like it's kind of a joke that I have it. Like it's not
Yeah.
like I'm sure, and not only that, but I'm sure there's some people in your ward, you know, that are like, oh my gosh, why do you have Catholic art in your house? And it's like kind of trollish, and it's just fun, but to not take things too seriously because people do like get really bent out of shape, like especially I feel like the Calvinists, man. They get real bent out, like Apologia Studios, they get real bent out of shape over
Bro, those
Mormon
guys,
stuff.
they make a living just crashing out for no reason. It's like, chill, bro. I'm predestined anyway. Like, what's the big deal?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, why are you
Like,
putting in so much effort?
take a breather. Like, you can, like, tell a joke every once in a while.
Seriously. So, yeah, apologetics, just pro church content, very cool stuff. I think, you know, I think Quaker gets a lot of like a lot of heat on, especially on Twitter. But I think people sort of they don't appreciate kind of like what he did with the space because he kind of made it like one you could kind of be like young and liberal and be like a pro Mormon person,
Yeah.
and I think people for sure sort of like discount that. And then other influencers like um, I mean, I feel like Quaku walks of that who's that other guy? He has a really cool like he's
Bachelor?
always wearing yeah.
Yeah.
Bachelor, yeah. Dude,
Bachelor's a friend, bro. Bachelor's a legend.
Quaku walked so that that guy could run, you know?
Oh, yeah.
Um, yeah, and so I think it's cool that we have. I mean, because we live in the social media saturated world, people the arguments I think are sort of they're not totally secondary, but they are somewhat secondary. But like the Mormon lifestyle is really like what people are looking at. You know, the trad wives, influencers. What's
The
that
Garmin
woman?
outfits.
Yeah, garment outfits, ballerina farms,
Ballerina
Bachelor
Farm
TV.
is a
Yeah,
fire page, and I'm tired of pretending like it's not awesome.
yeah. So, yeah, I think that people are looking at that. And it's both. I'm not saying it's good or bad. It's just the environment we're in. It's just different than
Yeah.
what it was like 20, 30 years ago.
Yeah. No one reads our
But
arguments. No one reads our scholarship ever. So
yeah,
frustrating.
yeah, it is frustrating. I think, anyways. So, what's interesting is these people they do this, but you know, under the hood, well, they're smart people. Like you know, if you go to Scripture Central offices, for example, they have brilliant people working there. People like Stephen Jones, that dude is so smart. Like
Yeah.
he's really chill and he has a charismatic persona. He's
John
amazing.
Thompson,
Yeah.
Egyptologist from UPenn.
Oh
Go.
yeah. And then also Jasmine. She's not at Scripture Central anymore, but Jasmine Rappel. Is it Rappeli? Rappeli?
Rapley.
Yeah,
Probably.
Rappeli
I
and
don't
her
know.
husband. Brilliant people. But they're also like they're not just the nerds, right? They're not just like
Yeah.
William Lane Craig. We're also like, hey, like if you become Mormon, Mormonism has a really strong culture, has a really strong tradition, and it's like really appealing to people on a level that like when people run into Mormons every time, they're like, man, there's something about Mormons that like speaks to us. We don't even know. Like I'll give you one example. We were in Cuba. Actually, this was in 2016. So we were in Cuba. It's illegal for Americans to be in Cuba. But we were there because we had signed some paperwork that allowed us to go to Cuba. And we said like we are going to do X, Y, and Z. We promised to do these things, et cetera, et cetera. But we stayed at a hotel there. And there's one little branch in Cuba. There's two of them actually in the whole island. Um, but we were there, and the woman who does the house cleaning, she stops us one day. She's like, "Hey, are you guys like Christians or something?" We're like, "Oh yeah, we are." Why do you ask? He's like, "Well, I clean your apartment every day, and I clean all these apartments, and when I go to your apartment, I just feel something different." And we're like, "Oh," we're like, "Yeah, well, we're from the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints." And we started telling her about this stuff, and then she's like, "Yeah, I would love to attend." And so we set it up. We contacted the local members in Cuba, and we were like, "Yeah, well, let's get to church on Sunday. Um, you can meet these people." But they were like, excuse me, my allergies are killing me today. But they were I mean, there's something about us, about our lifestyle, about our aura, let's say, that I think people do recognize, and it's not just woo woo stories that your grandma tells you. It's like this stuff
Yeah.
happens, people notice who we are.
But
And so
unless
I'm
you can
not
verify
surprised.
it and repeat it, then you can't believe
Yeah,
it.
exactly. Yeah, just like social science, right?
Yeah, memory. Your memory. You can't repeat it or verify it, so you don't your memories, they're all wrong.
Oh yeah, okay. So uh anyway, you study philosophy. Sounds like you study philosophy of mind. One of my favorite arguments is, people say, "Well, I can't believe in God. There's not enough evidence to believe in God." But then the philosophy of mind people will say, "Well, you don't really have much evidence that external minds exist either, right?
Oh
Like
yeah.
you could just
Absolutely.
you could just be solipsistic and only you exist and everything else is just like not real. But you treat other minds as if they're real. And that's perfectly reasonable. So it's perfectly reasonable to believe in God, who's also another mind. Um, but you were telling me about some of your personal interests in philosophy. I want to hear more about that because, again, I don't think Mormons aren't just brainwashed people. Like we get college degrees, we're like experts in our fields. So I want to hear about your personal thoughts on like what you're interested in philosophy.
Yeah, so I do love philosophy of mind, although I've never written anything in it or anything like that. Say my primary areas of interest for scholarships purposes are religious epistemology, kind of saying like what you're justified in believing religiously, and then religious ethics. I wrote a paper that's in the process of getting accepted to Element, kind of
Oh,
going
cool.
through the problems of moral realism in LDS theology. So we don't have a God, I don't think, that's capable of being the moral lawgiver. And even if he was, I think divine command theory, which is the view that something is like that you what is good is decided by God's commands, God's
Right, by
will.
God, yeah.
And so I don't really think that's available to us, and I don't think it's good anyway. And so I'm kind of like, where are we going to go from here? Like, how are we going to decide what the normative theory we're going to do is? So I take that on, especially considering that in our tradition, uh, commandments and divine will is revealed to us through prophets, and it's very dynamic. So at times we'll have a prophet say that polygamy is okay and God approves of it, and then at other times we see that it's not okay and you're actually excommunicated. So there's this interesting question of like how ethics are able to change if there's some sort of universal principle that governs all of it. So that's what I get into in that paper. And then the religious epistemology side, I really dig into religious experience and why religious experiences are why they infer justification for your beliefs in some way.
Totally. Yeah, not I'm also very interested in that question. Especially as a psychologist, because we're kind of like trying to understand human perception, human emotion, human experience, and then all that in terms of people's religious experience. Super fascinating stuff. I think,
Oh yeah.
I mean, just reading a biography of Joseph Smith, man, that his religious experience is so amazing. He's such a cool person, like a historical figure. Someone who I really admire just as a person, right? As a person in history. Um, it's interesting. Joe Smith, I think, was into divine command theory. So I don't know, man. Maybe you're wrong, brother.
Bro, it seems like his views kind of changed. Like, I mean, like in the narrative of Nephi killing Laban, I mean, the spirit kind of seems to reason in a utilitarian way. It's better that one man should perish
Yeah,
than an
that's
entire
true.
nation dwindle in unbelief. And then in the happiness letter, Joseph Smith kind of seems to be taking, which might be what you're referring to when you say he was a divine command theorist. He kind of seems to be taking this like radical relativistic divine command theory. It's like God just kind of decides based on the day,
Well,
which is also like a very Jewish conception of like how commandments work.
well,
But
I think
what were you? Yeah,
no. I think we're relativism. So people will say, yeah, uh, if Joseph Smith was a divine command theorist, and he's just really just a relativist. But I think there's at least where space to push against that because relativism actually presumes that there's no moral reality, and there's also like no moral like source. But if you believe in God, then there is a moral source and there's a moral reality. It's just you gain access through your relationship with God. So it's not relativism because there's certain aspects that are just radically different than moral relativism. But I think again, it's like the critics. One of the things that critics do is they don't actually make the arguments. They just make assumptions and sustain them. So Dan Vogel, for example, will say he's explicit about it, so at least he's a bit more fair. He's like, hey, I believe in naturalism, so I don't believe in supernatural stuff. So I don't believe in God, so I'm not going to rely on God to provide any historical explanations. And because of that, I cannot believe, despite evidence in the historical record, that God or an angel gave Joe Smith the gold plates. I need to provide an alternative explanation. Maybe he made a bunch of plates out of tin, but I have no historical evidence that he actually did that. That's just the best fit for my assumptions. It's like, okay, well, it's not really working for you.
yeah,
Um, but same thing with morality. You know, you say, well, um, if you believe in divine command theory, then it's just relative because God might change his mind one day. It's like, well, but God isn't just a person who's just whimsical. He's like the maximally knowing being. So whatever he tells you is informed by knowing all things. So it's not relative; it's the truth. But that's just again back and forth. See, I think um, I think people tend to treat each camp as a monolith, and so there's no discussion. We can have a variety of opinions in Mormonism
yeah,
that can address all the critics, and I think yeah. Anyways,
yeah. There's I have a buddy at BYU who really works on this and he really advocates for it. He calls it radical non-dogmatism, and he thinks that
cool,
Latter Day Saintism. Also, that's the word Joseph Smith used to describe us all the time. Latter Day Saintism, and I love that.
nice.
Just an aside, but he always he always talks about radical non-dogmatism. And you were saying earlier, like Protestantism and a bunch of these other Western religions are sort of reducible to a set of propositions that you believe. Like if you believe these propositions, then there you go. And if you don't, if you reject these propositions, then there you go. You're one of us. And I don't think Latter Day Saintism functions like that. I don't think we're reducible to a set of propositions. I don't think that there is just some body or list of facts that you need to believe, and that makes you a Latter Day Saint. Even something like the Trinity, like all of us reject the Trinity. Our prophets have rejected the Trinity, but like in the baptismal interview questions or the temple recommend questions, you don't have to be like, okay, do you believe the Trinity anymore? Or like All right. Do you believe in divine impassibility anymore? Like, we don't do that. Like, there's 3 questions regarding beliefs on the baptismal interview. To be a member, you have to affirm 3 beliefs. You have to affirm, I mean, I guess there's kind of 6. Do you believe in God the Father, Jesus Christ, and the Holy Ghost? There you go. That's it. It's seemingly intentionally vague. And then, do you believe Joseph Smith was the? I can't remember the exact wording, but do you believe Joseph Smith was a prophet, basically?
Right.
And do you believe the authority given to him is given to the current leaders of the church? That's it. Those are the 3 intellectual propositions that you need to accept in order to be baptized. Like, and then everything else is about the way you're living.
Like your
Like, are you
moral
living
conduct.
according to God? Yeah.
hmm Yeah, that's right. Yeah, no, I think that's fantastic. And I think that for sure pushes back against sort of that Protestant tradition where things are about propositions. It's more about like how you act, right? Like when Jesus and God the Father appear to Joseph Smith, the first thing they say is, um, they don't say, well, they do say that don't join any of the church, right? Don't join any of the churches. And they also say they're, they draw onto me with their lips, but their hearts are far from me, right?
Yeah.
And basically what God is saying is, yeah, I mean, right now Christianity is in a state of hypocrisy. I mean, I think that's true. And not only that, with our studies that we do about religious deconversion, hypocrisy is like the number one reason people leave the church. It's not even about um, the intellectual stuff. It's like you know, if they feel judged by the community, if they feel like you're not being a Christian, not you know, a true Christian, they'll leave. And I mean, on the one hand, that might sound unfair because everyone fails to live to their moral standard.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean we have, like, we shouldn't just be okay with not raising it to our moral standard. We should try to be the best Mormons we can be, and be the best Christians that we can be. And I think people see that with the social media and they see, like, you know, the light of Christ that we have and they see the fruits of our faith. And then that gets people interested. See, that's probably what brings them back to church is people who like are truly living like the gospel lifestyle, and that's attractive to people, and that's bringing them back. So
Yeah.
very cool stuff.
But if you can't verify that you're attracted to that lifestyle and that you find it somehow meaningful, like if you can't prove it, good luck. You're cooked.
Yeah, yeah. That again, scientism, logical positivism. Um, I don't want to get into a huge tangent, but I thought, since it's philosophy, I think it's interesting. People are talking about free will in lobsters. Oh, by the way, if you're not familiar with lobsters, join Latter-day Lobsters, the spiciest LDS group on Facebook. I think it's
Excellent
fantastic.
banter. Excellent banter.
Yeah, we have the best memes, we have the best discussions, and of course, we have the best podcast. I'm sorry, all those in favor. You guys are good.
Tough but fair.
Respect.
Tough but fair.
Um, so there's this woman. She's like a nihilist coach. I can't remember her name. She's around. I just don't know about her. I'm just like under a rock, because I'm
Yeah.
you know I do my thing. But they're talking about free will, right? When they're talking about does free will actually exist? Alex O'Connor, did a discussion saying it doesn't exist. He says, well, free will can't exist because, really it's just competing desires. You have competing
Yeah.
motivations. And so like one desire will win over another one, and that essentially determines your your decision. So you don't have free will. Um, but the problem with that argument is that when Freud kind of starts talking about psychology, he's like, yeah, you have like a three-part brain, and you have competing motivations, and there's like a dynamic system in your psyche where then that's sort of governing your behavior and your psychology. But then Heidegger comes in and he says, oh, hold up a second. Freud, you're a scientist. You're interested in what's measurable, right? Like it's not real if you can't measure it, just like you're saying. But how the heck do you measure emotion, and how do you measure your affect and things like that? That's not measurable. And not only that, but your desires and motivation, those aren't like internal billiard balls that move and that are quantifiable and that push each other. you're talking about things that you can't measure, like your emotion and your like motivations there. So the whole idea that motivations are like internally and physically real, it's just not true. And then what's further not true that they have no causal, like it's not true that they're causal. So those things can't push you to do something.
Yeah.
And so the idea that you can't have free will because your motivations are competing, that whole premise, line of reasoning just falls apart. And so,
And also, Alex kind of it almost bothers me a little bit because he makes it seem so simple. I mean, he's excellent at explaining complex topics in a
yeah,
simple way, but I think he oversimplifies the free will question, and he almost always fails to consider primary and secondary, or first order and second order, whatever term you'd like. Both are used.
yeah,
Volition. So like there's he's like you either want to do something or you're forced to do something. There's the only reasons you do something, and you can't change the way you want something. But I mean, like you think about like if you and I are playing chess, and
hmm
I make a certain move. Let's say I run a gambit, and you ask me why I ran a gambit. I wouldn't say, oh, because I wanted to run a gambit.
hmm
The first, I mean, I wanted to win the chess game,
right,
and using reason, I elected to run a gambit because I thought that would be the best way to achieve the thing that
that's
I
right.
was setting out to do. So you have these first order and second order volitions, and there's this like I don't know, it just bothers me when like he just kind of like glances over like that, and also his account. I mean, his podcast is called Within Reason, but his account of free will fails to account for the possibility of reason, and
Mm,
I don't know, dude. Just it's just annoying. And I mean, I don't know. I'm not like an expert in the free will topic. Like I've read a few books and done my classes or whatever, but for me,
yeah,
it's like the compatibilist route is extremely compelling, and the libertarian route's extremely compelling, and it's like 80% of philosophers fall on either one of those two. So it's like either way, we have some kind of free will. So I don't really care how it works. Like I just don't think hard determinism is true. I don't think that makes any sense.
yeah. Yeah, no, I mean, I agree. I think Alex's like English accent kind of like smooths things over, you know. I
Oh
mean,
yeah, dude. Us Americans, we add 20 IQ points to anyone with an English
I,
accent.
I think that guy. I mean, he's smart, no doubt, but I feel like he's like he talks like a guy who got a undergraduate in philosophy. I think that's cool. But past that, he's not like super, super duper brilliant. I mean, but he's charismatic, has a nice accent. He's smart. I think also like most people are just there's a lot of anti-intellectualism out there. Um, so he found his niche. That's great. We got to wrap up though.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just wanted to just thank you for coming on. Give you like a few last moments to kind of share you know um kind of where you hope to head with your podcast, and then like kind of what you hope to achieve with it, and what you hope people can find when they check you guys out.
Yeah, bro. Thanks for having me on. It's been a blast. I love the lobsters. Big JP fan. So when I found this group as a missionary, it was really hype.
Awesome.
Um, but yeah, just our page is really dedicated to our mission statement. After we had those few videos blow up unexpectedly, Baylor and I went out to a sports bar and we wrote down our mission statement. We wrote down our goals and everything. And our mission statement is to make popular and accessible the best reasons for faith. So there are excellent
Awesome.
reasons for faith out there, but they're a lot of time not reaching the people who really need them because maybe the messenger is going to a specific audience, or maybe the people who really need it most just aren't getting that type of content on their page. So we're really dedicated to making really good scholarship, really good ideas, and really good reasons for faith available to just about everyone. And that sometimes takes the form of scholarship and academic work. And like sometimes like we're interviewing Tony Finau later this month. Like that's a reason to believe. A really cool person who does really cool things. Who is just killing it in the golf world. Like that's a reason to believe. That gives people reason to believe. That justifies their belief. So that's what we're seeking to do, and we're also seeking to just make people more informed about the religion that we're a part of, and other religions as well. We try really hard to characterize other religions fairly, so that Latter Day Saints are not the ones that are going out and spewing out God maker type logic against other churches. So we're stoked, and we're just having a great time. And I mean, we respond to emails, DMs. So if you have a question or if you have something you want us to reach out to, then anyone can send us, and we'll respond, and we'd love to talk.
Very cool, man. Thank you so much, man. That was fantastic. I'll put your guys' info in the bio,
Dude,
and
thank
then
you.
people can reach out. Don't forget to subscribe to all those in favor, and if you haven't subscribed here, please give us a like and subscribe.
Rough
That's
Stone
awesome.
trolling, baby. Wait, oh, I messed that one up. Rough Stone trolling, baby.
Awesome.